Hold the gun. 1, 2, 3, bam! More.
Brett Ratner.
Filmmaker Brett Ratner is here at the age of 16 as the youngest student ever at New York University's film school. He had trouble financing his student film. He then asked 40 of the most powerful people he could think of for help. He then got back 39 rejection letters. He got one positive response. It came from Steven Spielberg, and later a check followed. He has since found success on his own. First, it was as a music video director, working with everyone from Public Enemy to Madonna. Most recently directing the 1998 blockbuster film Rush Hour and last year's The Family Man. His latest project is Rush Hour 2, which reunites Jackie Chan and Chris Tucker. I'm pleased to have Brett Ratner to this table for the very first time.
Thank you.
Don't you think I am promoting this movie a little bit too much?
Absolutely.
Don't you think I have gone over the edge?
Over the edge. We don't have to mention the movie.
I mean, somebody said to me, we obviously did it not because we have any interest in promoting your money. We have none in promoting your movie. But you've got two very interesting people in this movie.
Personalities, absolutely. Yeah. Each individually, but together like an explosion in a bottle.
All right, talk a little bit about that. Talk about these two guys, because we've just seen them this week on this program in the last 10 days.
Jackie Chan there's nobody like him in the world. I mean, working with him reminds me of how it would be working with the old school movie stars. Yeah. Jackie knows where his light is. Yes. If I tell him what lens I'm using, he knows where his focus is. He knows where to stand. And he's been making movies longer than I've been alive. So he's a phenomenon, really. I mean, as far as there's no actor in the world that could do what he does. And
now, what is that?
Act, martial arts, stunts, direct, edit. Everything. Anything that entails making a movie, he is a professional. Yeah. And in every aspect of making movies, Jackie Chan is the consummate professional. He's the consummate actor. I mean, this guy is on the set before I'm on the set. And his call time is until 2 hours after mine. And he is brilliant when it comes to entertaining people. He loves to, he knows why he was put on this earth, and he does it. And he loves doing it. I mean, and I got to tell you, walking down the street in Hong Kong with him, I can imagine it would be like walking down the street with Elvis. Yeah. Because to Asian people, he's a hero. He's a true hero to the 2 billion or so Asian people, really. Chris Tucker, on the other hand, is another phenomenon, because he's a kid who came from something called hip-hop culture. And hip-hop culture is not just music; it's kind of a lifestyle. It entails clothing, music, black culture basically. Right, and he grew up loving martial arts movies. He grew up loving movies like 48 Hours, movies like Beverly Hills Cop.
That wasn't a martial arts movie.
No, absolutely. But he loved martial arts movies as well. Yeah, right. And after I did Money Talks with him, I called him up and I said, Chris, I want to do a movie with Jackie Chan. I have an idea to put you and him together. He goes, I love Jackie Chan. I'll do the movie, no problem. I'll do it. So I fly to South Africa to meet Jackie for one day, for lunch, to convince him that he's got to do the movie. He didn't know who Chris Tucker was.
Did he know who you were?
He didn't know who I was. But the producer said, meet this kid. He wants to do it. And he hadn't done a movie in the United States in over 20 years. His last movie, Rumble in the Bronx, was a Chinese movie that was dubbed in English. And so I
shows a serious oversight by Hollywood.
Absolutely. But
they're not as smart out there as I thought they were.
But what happened was when black culture started becoming pop culture, what people don't recognize is that Kung Fu is a big part of black culture.
Yeah. And Kung Fu, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, black youth love martial arts. Yeah. They love Jackie Chan. They love Bruce Lee.
Is it the athleticism of it all, or just the movement of it all? Because it has a kind of
yeah, it's a combination of
it's almost a dance.
The action. It's pure entertainment, fighting and action, and martial. And so I convinced Jack. I said, Jackie, this script here that I have in my hand, Rush Hour, sucks. It's not good. But I know exactly what to do with it. And if you do this movie, your physical comedy with Chris Tucker's verbal comedy is going to make a great movie. And he didn't know who Chris Tucker was. But what I told him is, I said, the script isn't good, but I know what to do with it. I know if I put you two guys in a typical American buddy picture, it's going to work. And I left there, and I went back on the plane, 18-hour flight, and I didn't know what to expect. And a week later, they called me up and said, Jackie's going to do the movie with you. And I asked him a few months later, I said, Jackie, why did you do the movie? He said, I did the movie because every producer in Hollywood, every big director in Hollywood I met, says, Jackie, the script is brilliant. You're going to be a huge star. It's going to be incredible. It's going to be great. And I said, Jackie, this script is horrible, but I know what to do with it. And I was honest, and it was a big success.
Because he clearly doesn't need the money. He clearly doesn't need a bigger audience. He's got everything he needs.
He is really the biggest star in the world because every single country he goes to, not only people recognize him, people love his movies.
Yeah.
And he has a huge career in Asia. And there's Jackie Chan sneakers, there's Jackie Chan cars, there's Jackie Chan restaurants, there's Jackie, he's Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods, Madonna in one.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so you get these two together for Rush Hour 1 and Rush Hour 1. Chemistry works immediately? Why?
I knew the chemistry was going to work when I first introduced them because I introduced them, we're sitting at a table together, the three of us. Yeah. And Chris Tucker leans over to me and goes, I like Jackie Chan, but I don't understand a word he's saying. And then Jackie Chan leans over to me after Chris leaves and says, I like Chris Tucker. Very funny, but what's he talk about? I don't understand the way he speaks. And I knew that at that moment, and we use that in the movie. Whenever Jackie speaks and Chris don't understand, I go, say it, Chris, say it. And he's like, you don't speak English, do you? And it works. And really what I recognize is why Rush Hour works so well. And the reason why I think it works so well is because of the fact that Chris Tucker is to 10-year-old kids today what Eddie Murphy was to me when I was 10 years old.
Which was? What was he to you
he was cool.
Yeah, exactly.
He was cool. And,
he was the coolest.
And
for another generation early, it was Richard Pryor.
Absolutely. For the 70s, it was Richard Pryor. Right. For the 80s, it was Eddie Murphy, and now it's Chris Tucker. Right. And what people don't realize is that people say, oh, black culture has become pop culture. It's really what happens is, it hasn't been black crossing over to white. It's America has crossed over to black culture. Now there's teenagers all across America who are dressing like Eminem and Snoop Dogg, white teenagers across America. And it's in every aspect of entertainment. It's in music, it's in movies, it's in television.
Chris Rock has a great line, which he says, isn't America a wonderful country where the number one golfer is a black man and the number one rap star is a white man?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And there's no color lines anymore, for real. And what I think Rush Hour has done is open the doors to young minorities, Asian and black, and even Hispanic. If you notice, in Rush Hour 2 and in Rush Hour 1, the three stars of the movie are all Asian, black, or Hispanic. Mm-hmm. The bad guy's the white guy. There's nobody white who is a lead in this movie, okay? And it's fun. It's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what does that say about the future of movies?
What it says is that any...
There's a new audience out there, and you better hip to it.
Well, that's the thing. I think Hollywood has always been a little late, when it comes to... It's why...
Music gets there first.
Yeah, and absolutely. And Hollywood has been a little late, and right now they recognize it, and they recognize that you don't have to be Tom Cruise. You don't have to be Tom Hanks to have a movie that performs with hundreds of millions of dollars of business. You don't need it anymore. You don't need to have a white Anglo-Saxon all-American star to have a hit movie. You just have to have a great idea and a well-told story.
Okay, but what's the great idea of Rush Hour? Is simply putting these two guys together, or what? What's the great idea in Rush Hour 1 or 2?
I think it's a formula that existed.
It's a buddy movie and combines a black guy and an Asian
exactly.
guy.
It's a new take on the buddy genre.
Okay, all right.
But the truth is that
who bring their own audiences because one, they are already established with the hip young audience, the hip hop group, regardless of race, and Jackie Chan with Asians plus, regardless of race.
Jackie Chan on his own is an incredible personality and movie star. Chris Tucker is an incredible personality. The two of them together, it's like an explosion in a bottle, and it works. And what is chemistry? How do you describe it? You really can't. It either exists or it doesn't. If these guys didn't have the chemistry, the movie wouldn't work.
Why did you want to make this movie?
I'm a product of hip hop culture.
Yeah.
I am. I grew up around, one of my mentors is a guy named Russell Simmons. I grew up
sure.
around him. I saw him create the Def Comedy Jam. I saw Chris Tucker do stand-up on the Def Comedy Jam and said, this guy is talented.
Yeah.
And I paid him $500 to be in a music video for Heavy D. This is in 1994. Yeah. And that was his first job.
Was Chris ever great at stand-up?
Yes.
He was.
I think he was. I think he was brilliant at stand-up. Absolutely.
Brilliant like Pryor, brilliant like Murphy was in his younger age.
I think what happened is he climbed the ladder so fast that he didn't get to really...
exactly. He didn't get to be that good. Or not as good as Seinfeld was.
He didn't get to work it. Eddie Murphy, when he did these concert movies that he did, was on tour almost every day of the year.
So was Seinfeld.
Developing his craft, developing his talents. And Chris Tucker rose very fast to the occasion.
And something he was in the movies before he could wake up.
Absolutely. And look where he went.
Or television first.
He got $2 million for Rush Hour 1 and $20 million for Rush Hour 2. Look at that. I mean,
you know how much he's going to come at you guys for next time?
I don't know how it can happen, but hopefully we can work it out.
Will there be? Do you think there ought to be? I mean, is this a franchise now that you have created a monster?
Yeah.
In the sense that this, there's nobody out there. What studio is this for?
New Line.
So, I mean, I rest my case. I mean, Michael is going to. Come on.
The thing about it is that you have to realize that we're on 4,500 screens in the United States, over 3,000 theaters. When there weren't that many screens, I mean, the amount of screens that are increasing every day, the business is starting to make sense to pay these actors this amount of money for studios, because when Rush Hour 1, for instance, came out, there were 3 million people that owned DVD players.
Yeah.
By this Christmas, there will be 16 million DVD player owners.
Thank God for that. I love mine. Because more DVD players are out there, the more things they'll put on DVD.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Will there be a Rush Hour 3 in your judgment?
If the DVD player owners increase, if the amount of theaters increase, if financially it makes sense for the studio, that's really what it comes down to. If they can make the deals with the talent, and you know what, if it doesn't exist with Chris Tucker, Jackie Chan, and myself, it might be another director with Chris Rock and Jet Li. Who knows? Maybe there'll be another version of Rush Hour 3 because the studio will take advantage of it.
Tell me the best movie you, as a human being,
Yes.
saw in the last year. It doesn't have to be. It could be 18 months or it could be 9 months.
God.
Give me a movie that you walked out of and said, "Man, there's a great movie. I wish I'd done, produced, directed, made. I mean, I want to know where your taste is. I want to know where your head is.
Where my taste is. God, you know what? I swear, I watch a different movie every day.
Oh, do you really?
I'm the biggest fan of movies.
You and Scorsese.
Well, not quite, but I mean, he has a better memory than I do,
well,
and he's seen a lot more movies than I do. But the truth is,
but he does watch a movie every night almost.
I do. If I can't watch a whole movie every night, I'll watch a scene of a movie.
Do you really?
I'll watch a scene.
Now, why is this?
I'm obsessed with movies. Movies are kind of my education. I'm making movies, and I want to make the best movies I can make. And the thing is, I got to meet an opportunity to meet Spielberg once, and I said, in Schindler's List, there was a shot, and you took this shot, and you did this, and where did you come up with that idea? How did you do that shot? I don't remember what shot it was, but I asked him. He says, "Oh, do you remember Peeping Tom, the Michael Powell film? I took that right out. Remember the scene in Peeping Tom where I said, oh, and I realized, and then I didn't feel so bad about studying movies and getting ideas from it, because there's, and if you look at movies like Rush Hour, there's not one scene in that movie that you haven't seen in another movie. We all take from other movies. That's my, movies are my inspiration. It'll never be the same. It's different actors, it's a different location, it's different moments, it's a different, experience.
Yeah. No,
I know. One of my favorite movies, though, is Being There, directed by Hal Ashby.
Yeah, I know the movie.
That's one of my favorite movies.
Because?
It's a movie that was a comedy, really, that was shot like a dramatic film.
What's your favorite Spielberg movie?
God. For me...
Let's separate Schindler's, because that was such a powerful, personal journey for him. My
favorite Spielberg movie, I must say, was E.T., because of the age I was when I saw it.
And because it's his wonderment. E.T. is about, I think, who he is.
Yeah. Well, more than that, even, I appreciate that it is. I mean, the best directors have a style, and that you could see them in their movies, like Scorsese,
Yeah.
like Spielberg, even AI. Every movie that
Yeah, okay.
Spielberg's
Well,
done,
do you see Spielberg in AI, or do you see Stanley Kubrick?
I see a little bit of both. I see kind of it's kind of a it's kind of a combination of both.
Probably because Steven Spielberg
Mm-hmm.
thought he owed something to.
It was his
Stanley.
homage.
That's right. It was
to,
an
to him,
homage to
yeah.
him.
And you know, I see in Spielberg's movies, I see him, and that's what. And I love any director where you could see their work, their personality in their work. Even Hal Ashby in his movies, you see him in it. And I never met him. But of course, the most obvious is Scorsese. When you see a Scorsese, when you see a Coen Brothers movie, those guys, their work is very stylized,
Right.
and it inspires me because if someone can take their personality and project it through actors, through sets, through lighting, themselves, then they're a great filmmaker.
So go back for me
Yeah.
for a minute to NYU.
Yeah.
You were how old when you went to NYU?
The benefit that I had as a child growing up was that I always knew I wanted to be a director.
Since when?
Since I was 8 years old. I would tell people, I'm going to be a movie director. I'm going to be a movie director. So my favorite director at the time was, of course, Martin Scorsese.
Yeah.
So how did Martin Scorsese become a director? They said, well, he went to NYU Film School. I said, well, that's where I'm going. I'm going to go to NYU Film School. And what I did was, I didn't apply to any other school.
Yes.
And I had horrible grades because I had the kind of mother who would say to me, travel around Europe. You're going to learn more traveling around Europe than you are going to school.
Yeah.
But
Oh
make
my
sure when
God.
you're
where did she come from?
But make sure when you go to Paris, go to the Louvre.
Yeah, right.
When you're in Milan, go to La Scala. And,
Right,
go to
right.
and so I didn't really study much, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But I did watch a lot of movies, and I did make a lot of movies. Okay, and I applied to NYU, and I skipped. I talked my way out of the great classes so I can skip, so I can graduate early, because all I dreamed about was going to NYU and making movies. So I think also, how am I going to get in? Because back then, NYU was an academic university. They didn't care if you had a great film to show or if you had a great script. They wanted to know that you had a 3.8 to 4.0 and that you had a very high SAT score, and I had neither. So I said, let me go for an interview. And I got a female interviewer, and I said, great, I'll be charming, she'll love me, she'll let me into the school.
Yes, of course.
She hated me. She said, who the hell do you think you are?
Yeah.
You can't come to this school. You need to have a 3.8, and you have the worst grades I've ever seen. You go to community college, okay, and then get straight A's for 2 years, and then maybe we'll consider letting you in. I was devastated, Charlie. I was walking down the street, okay, with my head down and going, my life is over. Literally, I'm 16 years old. I'm about this tall, okay? I'm walking down the street, and something came over me, and I said, you know what? I'm not going to let this woman decide my future.
Of course not.
I said, I'm going to go straight to the dean's office, the dean of the entire university, not just the film school. And I went to the dean's office. I said, hi, I'm Brett Ratner. I'm here to see the dean. They go, do you have an appointment? I said, no. They go, well, in 3 months, you could see him on the Tuesday from there. I said, you don't understand. I came all the way from Miami. My plane is leaving in 2 hours. You have to let me in. And the secretary's really nice. She goes, he's coming out of his meeting in 10 minutes. You have 2 minutes with him. And I walked into his office, and I said, Dean, I said, my whole life, I've dreamed of being a movie director. This is the only school I applied to. If you don't let me in, I'm going to be living on my mom's couch for the rest of my life. He said, get this young man's docket on my desk by tomorrow morning. And 2 weeks later, I got accepted into NYU Film School. And when I got that acceptance, it literally changed my life. It made me realize not only that I couldn't take no or wouldn't accept what just someone said to me if I really wanted it, that I had to really persevere and be tenacious and go after what I really wanted. That one moment, that defining moment of me making the decision to go, making a choice, which is what my movie The Family Man was really about.
Right.
A man making choices in his life. And what happened was I went ahead and I took that experience and used it to succeed and to make movies. And when I wanted to do The Family Man and they didn't want to hire me because they said, you're too young, you don't have a family of your own, I said, I'm part of a family. I could make a movie like this, a serious movie, you know, a movie with big stars in it. I could do it. And they kept saying no and no and no, and I'd accept it. And I fought, and it took me a year, and I finally got the job. And then once I got the job, and I said, I want Nicolas Cage to be in this movie, and he said no 10 times. His agent said no. His manager said no. I kept after him until he finally said yes. And I can go back and look at why I was successful. And I think if I go back even further, I realized it was because my mother always gave me, and not only did she give me so much love, but she made me realize that I shouldn't be afraid to fail. Because if I couldn't become a movie director, my mom was still going to love me. My friends were still going to be my friends. That were my true friends. And I went into life not being afraid to fail. Because if you're afraid to fail, and if you quit and you give up, you'll never know if you would have done it. NYU teaches you how to make films. They don't teach you how to get a job.
Yeah.
And Hollywood wasn't keen on film schools. They weren't the directors who had made it, like the Coen brothers or Spike Lee, had made movies with their credit cards.
Yeah.
And
I know Spike came from NYU, didn't he?
He did, but the way he became a director is he made a feature film.
Right.
It got recognition. Then people said, "Oh, he could do it." Now, there's so many different ways to become a director through film school, through music videos, through taking a home movie camera like they did with Blair Witch and having a great idea, because it's not about anymore the technical. It's, I know that people back when I was in film school would look for the technical aspects of the movie. How is the lighting? How is the composition? It's all about storytelling now.
Yeah.
If someone has something important to say, and they can do it with a video camera, anybody, a girl in the middle of nowhere living in the mountains in Kentucky can make a movie and make it compelling, and it doesn't have to be beautifully lit. It doesn't have to have composition. And film school was the greatest experience in my life, because I learned because everything technical about filmmaking you can learn in a book. But I had this one professor at NYU.
Or B, you can find somebody to do it for you.
Exactly. And what I did was, instead of me learning my craft, I just said, look, because you're supposed to direct one film, then you're supposed to be the cinematographer on another, then you're supposed to edit another. I said, I just want to be a director. That's my focus. I don't want to do anything else. Who's the best cinematography student?
Right.
And that's what I did. And,
exactly.
and what happened was, I learned how to make film, but I didn't know anybody in Hollywood. I'm from Miami Beach. I didn't know anybody in the entertainment business. And what I did was, like you mentioned in the beginning of the show, I sent my scene from the movie. I didn't need the money. I just wanted the relationship. And I sent the scene from the movie to 40 of the biggest people in the industry. I think Forbes published, the 40 biggest people in entertainment.
Right.
And I sent a letter to Spielberg, to George Lucas, to Steve Ross, at the time the chairman of Warner Brothers. Right. And I got 39 of the nicest rejection letters. Then
saying, don't give up, keep going.
Well, because people, on the top have secretaries and they respond. But I felt like I had a connection with these people. John Peters, Peter Guber. And I felt like, when I go out to Hollywood one day, I'm going to call this guy up and say, hey, remember I sent you? And maybe they'll remember or not, but at least it'll help me get in the door. Then I get a call from the dean, and the dean said, come in and talk to me. I'm like, uh-oh, what did I do now?
Right.
I'm getting expelled. I'm in big trouble. I don't know. And he said, Steven Spielberg's office called here looking for you. Steven Spielberg wants to talk to you. I said, come on.
Yeah.
Someone's pretending they're Steven Spielberg. They called you, and you're buying it. Trust me, it's a joke. Don't waste your time. Just take this number. I go back to my dorm room, and I call up. And I say, I dial the number, and they answer the phone. Steven Spielberg's office. And I go, is Mr. Spielberg in?
Yeah.
I'm like an 18-year-old film student.
They said, who's calling?
Who's calling? They said, Brett Ratner. They go, oh, Brett Ratner, hold on, he's expecting your call. I was shaking on the phone. Make a long story short, he doesn't come to the phone.
Yeah.
They said he'll call you back. I was up all night thinking that he's going to call me in the middle of the night.
Be ready.
I couldn't sleep. I woke up in the morning. I get a call from this woman by the name of Kathleen Kennedy,
right?
Who I didn't know who she was at the time.
She's a producer now.
She's the producer. And she says, I'm calling on behalf of Steven. He's really busy. He can't call you back, but he wanted to tell you that he was really impressed with your short. I only sent him one scene from the movie. But we don't finance short films. We give our money also to USC Film School, and we don't. But look, good luck in the future. Send it to us when you're done. I said, but you don't understand.
I need the money.
No, I'm going to be as big as Steven Spielberg. And this is an important film. It was just a comedy, right? 2 weeks later, I let her go. I let her go after harassing her for 5 or 10 minutes. Yeah. And 2 weeks later, I get a check in the mail from Amblin Entertainment, from Steven Spielberg. And I said, and Kathleen, of course, had something to do with it.
Sure.
I went crazy. I blew up the check the size of my wall in my dorm room. I would carry it around in my wallet and show it to girls in the hallway to try to impress them. I was ready to put Steven Spielberg presents a Brett Ratner film. and what I did was, and I went crazy basically. I was a film student. But what I did was, I never sent him the whole film because I never thought it was good enough. And I said, one day, I'm going to meet him, and I'm going to tell him the story, and he's going to remember me, and I'm going to get an opportunity to direct a movie when I have something better to show. And so I started directing music videos after film school. and I become friendly with Quincy Jones. And Quincy invites me to a party at Steve Ross's, his widow's house, Courtney Ross.
Right.
And I think there's going to be 200 people there. And I walk in, and he's saying, "Oh, everybody, this is Brett Ratner, talented young director. Brett, this is Penny Marshall, Robert De Niro, and Steven Spielberg." And I said, "Excuse me, I'll be right back." I was so nervous. And I get my food, and I sit down. There was only 4 of us there. And I sit down, and Steven Spielberg sits right next to me. He says, "So did you go to film school?" I said, "You know, it's funny you should ask, because I sent you my student film." And he said, "Oh, yeah, I remember." I said, "Actually, I never sent you the whole movie." He goes, "Why didn't you?" And he goes, "Oh, Cut to a few years later, I direct my first movie. I'm in a restaurant. Steven Spielberg's there. Comes over to my table and says, "Brett, I want to congratulate you. You did it. You made a movie. Congratulations." And without his help, even.
Yeah.
But it's just a great. I feel, even though he didn't directly, it inspired me. You know, him being kind to me, him sending me that money, sending me that check, because I could have accepted no. Kathleen Kennedy said, "Look, we don't do it." But I said, "But you don't understand." And really what the lesson is for other filmmakers or other people that want to accomplish something in life, in anything, I think, not only in entertainment, but in any career path that you choose, is don't give up.
Are you prepared to do the same thing for a young film student at USC or NYU?
I do it all the time. I do it all the time. Oh, yeah. I'm a big fan of
mentoring and all that.
Oh, yeah, because I love filmmakers. I love them. Like, if, Marlon Brando was in the room, I would be impressed. But if Martin Scorsese was in the room, or if Steven Spielberg was in the room, or anybody, a filmmaker to me is like, I get so excited. Even directors who don't have success. I love directors, even directors.
Now, do you have some great film you want to make? Or are you in the process simply of being a filmmaker, of making films? Do you live obsessed by there is a film? In the same way, say, that Warren Beatty, for a long time, was obsessed to make Reds.
Yeah.
It was a project carried around his head for 10 years. And then at the same time was obsessed with making Howard Hughes, which will never happen.
Absolutely.
Right.
I get obsessive about the movie that I'm working on.
Yeah.
So I'm very young, so I hope that, I have time to find a project that I'm saying, I have to make this movie. But I was obsessed with Family Man. I read this. I didn't want to read it. I got the script. Why would I want to read a script called The Family Man? I don't want to do a family film. And my agent called me and she goes, "You got to read the script." And I read it, and it made me cry. And I said, "Wait a second, maybe I'm having a bad day. Let me read this again. Maybe something." Wrong. And I read it again, and it made me cry again.
Yeah.
And I called up my agent, and I said, "I have to direct this movie. I have to. This is the best script I ever read in my life." And I called her back. She goes, "It's too late. Curtis Hanson is directing it." Right. And I was getting ready to do a movie that Warren Beatty was going to star in, actually, called The Killing of a Chinese Bookie, which is a remake of a Cassavetes movie.
Right.
And something came over me. I called the head of the studio, even though there was another A-list director on the movie, and I said, same way that I went to see the dean, and I said, "Look, if something happens, I don't want to jinx it, but directors fall out of movies all the time. If something happens, please call me. I know I don't have a family of my own. I know I might be too young in your mind. I know I do this action comedy genre, but this is a movie that I know I can make well. And it's not because I've studied It's a Wonderful Life or the other, romantic fantasies, and it's because I responded to this material. I felt like I could make my own version of that movie, of this type of movie."
Roll tape. Here it is, The Family Man.
Say it to me, John.
What?
You know what I like to hear.
Yeah, baby, I know what you like to hear.
And tell me.
You're a bad girl, baby. You make me so hot.
What?
Now, when did you do Money Talks?
That was my first film.
That was the number one. And you were how old then?
26.
And when you did Family Man, you were how old?
30.
And today you are?
31.
31. And do you know what you're going to do next?
I'm doing Red Dragon, which is the prequel to Silence of the Lambs.
Oh, sure it is.
The book Red Dragon by Thomas Harris. And the writer, it was written by Ted Talley, who got the Academy Award for writing Silence of the Lambs. And Anthony Hopkins is going to play Hannibal Lecter, of course. And I'm casting it right now, and I'm getting ready to do it.
Brett Ratner, director, Rush Hour 2, starring Chris Tucker and Jackie Chan, who've been here. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's been great to have you.
Great, thank you so
much
much.
success.
All right.
We'll be right back. Stay with us.